All right, hello everyone, and welcome to week 11. So, this week we are talking about identifying and planning your career. We're going to be starting module 8. This module will cover both weeks 11 and weeks 12. I wanted to start out by sharing with you a little bit about my own experience, the process I took identifying my career path, and then developing a plan for that career. One thing I want to note is that this module is really just focusing on identifying your career path. The next module, which will be module 9, we will start creating an action plan. So don't feel like you need to be overwhelmed right now. These next 2 weeks are really just about spending the time to think about what career path you want, narrowing it down to a couple options, and starting to feel good about sort of having that decision made and moving on. Okay, so choosing a career path. I've already shared a little bit about myself in the welcome video at the start of this semester, if you watched that. But I wanted to share a little bit more about me and how I ended up in the career path or in the career I am in now. So I switched my career path quite a few times until I found the perfect fit for me. So don't feel bad if you've switched your goal or changed your mind. A lot of us do the same. I started my career, my college career, studying electrical engineering. So that was when I was very young, straight out of high school. I went from high school to a university where I was studying electrical engineering. My father is an electrical engineer and owns his own business. So I sort of grew up working there and always just thought that that was the way I wanted to go. I'd worked there my whole life. I saw my dad's business. The plan was I would go to school, take over my dad's business, and move on. But about a year and a half into taking my engineering courses, I realized this was not the career for me. I hated it. I didn't just sort of not enjoy it, I actually hated it. So I switched, I changed my path. And I actually ended up taking a 6-year hiatus from college, which again was not in the original plan, but life happens. And in that time, I had a completely different career. I did get married. I went to cosmetology school, so I obtained my license. I worked at a salon and spa for a few years, and then I opened up my own business. And I ran that for about 5 years. It was really successful. I really enjoyed it, but it just wasn't fulfilling me. I really missed being in a classroom. I missed learning. And I sort of just knew in the back of my mind, even as I was running this business and it was going really well, that that wasn't going to be my forever career. So I went back to college when I was 28, kind of not having any idea what I wanted to do. And the first course I got into, it was the only one that was available at the time because I sort of decided late I was going to go back to a junior college. I took a psychology course and I loved it. Um, and I started investigating sort of the different career paths that you could take within psychology. So I looked at all of these options, and the one that spoke the most to me was going to medical school to be a psychiatrist. So I started taking all of the steps to meet the pre-med requirements, right? So I was actually a biology major. I was taking all of my chemistry and my physics and my calculus and all of those really fun science classes to get ready for going to medical school. So after 2 years of this, I was getting ready to transfer to UC Davis to finish up my bachelor's in biology before applying to med school. And that summer, before I transferred, I had my second child. And I realized that with 2 little kids, I also had a 4-year-old daughter at the time. Medical school just really was going to be a lot. It was going to be a lot of work. It would take me away from home and away from my kids much more than I really wanted to be. So I had to pivot again. I did a late application to the psychology program at Sac State, and I was excited to get in. And once there, I was sort of just started taking random classes that first semester. So I was a junior at that point. And it was my first semester there, and I was just sort of taking any class in psychology that I could get into. That probably sounds very familiar to some of you, trying to meet those requirements and just make sure I sort of chose classes that were interesting to me. But I was just trying to find my niche, right? So taking all these different classes in different areas to find the area that would most interest me. Originally, I thought, okay, maybe I'll go the path of a clinical psychologist. So I started taking various classes that would lead me in that direction. I took drugs and behavior and cognitive psychology and neuroscience. But it wasn't until I took PSYC4, and I was also taking Psych 171, which is Intro to Behavior Analysis, the spring semester of my junior year. So my second semester at Sac State. And I realized, oh my goodness, I want to go into behavior analysis. I was taking that class, I was loving everything about it. And I realized that that was where I wanted to go. I'd finally found my niche. But I only had a year left at that point, right? So it's my spring semester of my junior year. I've got 2 semesters left. I have a year left if I want to, get out and graduated in 2 years, which was the original plan. So I really had to get it in gear, right? I have a year left, and I'm just now deciding that I want to get into this grad program and go into this whole field and do this whole thing. So I had to really kick it in gear. Now, most people and most of you might be able to take more time to get ready for this type of path. I hope that you can, because it's preparing for graduate school, applying to graduate school. It's no small task. It's a lot of work. So if you're someone who has lots of time to plan, I'm so excited for you, because your journey into graduate school, whatever, graduate program you might decide to go in, it's going to be a bit smoother for you than it was for me. But if there are some of you like me who are sort of just now realizing what you want to do, and it's sort of later in your academic career, that's okay. I'm here to tell you it can be done. It is harder. It's a little bit more stressful and rushed, but it absolutely can be done. For me personally, since I had already switched careers a few times, I had switched my major once, and I was sort of coming back to school as an older student. I had 2 kids, I had a family, I had a mortgage, right? So I had all of these extra things that many younger students don't have. For me, I didn't want to get held up any more than necessary. So at that point, I was like, okay, I only have a year left, and this is going to be stressful, but oh well, I'm doing it. So I crammed in all the rest of my classes that I needed in that summer. I actually took 4 classes, a full semester worth of classes in the summer, and then filled my final 2 senior semesters with courses and various other work to get me ready for the graduate program. So while I was taking those classes, I realized I really wasn't a great candidate for the program at Sac State, which is where I ultimately wanted to go. I had no research experience in the area of behavior analysis. I had no clinical or field or job experience. So I immediately applied and was accepted into a lab on campus, which was awesome. So I started getting a lot of research opportunities and experience. I also applied for a job in the field, so I could start getting that clinical experience that I needed. And then I also started getting involved with the programs on campus. So the Student Association of ABA that's on Sac State's campus. I started attending various conferences in the field and things like that. I applied that fall. So it was the fall of my senior year. So I see how quick that was. The spring of my junior year, I decided I was going to do this. And that following fall semester, I was applying to grad school. It was a whirlwind. And I ended up getting accepted, and I got into the program, and it was an amazing experience. So I share this with you for a couple of reasons. First is to tell you that really right now is the time to think about what comes next, what comes after graduation, and use this time to start building any skills you need, regardless of whether those skills are to help you be more marketable for a job if you're going into the job market, or skills and things you might need to get ready to go to graduate school. Right now, while you are in school, this is the best time to volunteer your time and get access to building skills that will make you more competitive for your future path, wherever that may take you. So now is the time to take advantage of all the groups that are on campus, the various research labs. Even though we are all online and we're in the middle of a pandemic, most of the labs have found a way to pivot and adjust and collect data and do all of the things that they were doing before online. They're figuring out new ways to do this. So there are still many opportunities for you to sort of get your feet wet and get some experience, even though we aren't in person and on campus. And it just takes so much as maybe reaching out to a professor whose research interests you. So if you read sort of their bios online, maybe at Sac State, a lot of them have their own websites that talk about the various publications they have and the different articles they've published and various research areas they've looked into. So I highly recommend looking at that information to see if you're interested in getting involved in any of those. Remember that it is never too early or too late to start volunteering, to start building those necessary skills that you need for success in whatever path that you choose to go on. Also, volunteering really helps you verify that the career you think you want is actually the one you want, right? So if you think you want to go into a certain area of research, getting experience in a research lab that does that research will tell you if you actually like it or not, right? And if that's the career that you should choose. So, with that, I want to touch on the problem with psychology. So, psychology is a great field. And most likely, you're here in the psychology major because you like interacting with people. I think the majority of us get involved because we have an idea about being a clinical psychologist or a counselor of some kind. And the great thing about psychology is there are a large number of career options and career paths that you can take. However, the drawback and the problem with psychology is there are a large number of careers that you can take with the good degree in psychology. There's a lot of options, and sometimes it feels like too many options. So, right now, if you're in the mindset that you're not really sure exactly what you want to do yet, that's okay. But you need to sort of start taking those steps to gain knowledge, to narrow down your choices, and start figuring out if those are the things you want to do. So, right now, you can start by getting exposure to the careers you think you want to help verify that you will enjoy what you are doing. So, again, if right now you don't know your path, if you are feeling a little bit lost and you're just not really sure what you want to do, that's okay. It's okay to not know exactly what you want to do. Or you may be in the position where you do know what you want to do. Either of those is fine. If you are in the group that you don't know what you want to do, now is the time to start making those hard decisions and putting effort into making a formal decision about what career path you think you want. At least narrowing it down to 2 to 3 career paths because you need to start preparing yourself. If you are planning to be a clinical psychologist or really any most type of counselor or therapist, a career counselor, marriage and family counselor, um, you are going to need to continue on to graduate school. As you need a master's and specific certifications for these different positions. So you need to start preparing for that and for those different options that you may be interested in. And you have to remember that as you finish your undergraduate and you get ready to apply to these graduate programs or these certification programs, you need to keep in mind that you're going to be competing with individuals who have known what they want to do and they've been preparing for it. So, the best thing you can do if you don't know exactly what you want is to at least narrow it down to a couple career options and start building skills and gaining experience in both options so you're prepared for both things. So don't wait until you graduate. If you're trying to get a job right after graduation, it will take about 6 months of active looking and active searching to find a job. And right now, the market might even be a little more difficult to get into. So you need to start building skills now, um, and you want to start thinking about what those next steps are. And you don't need to make any decisions that are lifelong, right? You can change your mind. Once you decide and you narrow these career path options down, you don't have to live with them forever. They can always change, but at least narrowing it down will help you prepare, right? When you have so many options available to you, it's very easy to just get frozen and sort of stuck because there's too many paths you can take. So narrow that down to 2 or 3 at the most, and that will feel a little bit more doable in terms of making sure that you're preparing and getting experience and getting exposure to those 2 or 3 options. If you're in the group where you know exactly what you want to do, let's say, for example, you want to be an MFT, marriage family therapist, and once you get your bachelor's degree, you're going to be applying to the master's program. That's great. You can also start preparing for that, but you should also have a backup plan. It is important that you're thinking about, if you want to get your MFT, what is that ultimate goal? Maybe MFT is not the only path to get you to your goal. Maybe you could also have a master's in social work, for example. When I was getting ready to sort of rush apply to grad school, I did have a backup plan. So I had thought, okay, I'm sort of late to the game. I might not get into graduate school. I might not make it this time around. So I'm going to do everything I can to build a great rapport with the advisor I was working with, who was Dr. McGall. Some of you may have had his classes. And I thought, I'm going to build a great rapport with him. I'm going to put in a lot of work. And even if he doesn't accept me into the program, I'm going to try and make it so that he would be willing to keep me on as a volunteer in my year off. So I can still keep getting that research experience with him, and then I'll try applying again in a year. So I sort of had this backup plan to fall on if I didn't get accepted to the graduate program my first time around. So even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, maybe you want to look at a couple of different programs that you're interested in. Make sure that you know all of the different prerequisites that you need for those different programs so that you can make sort of a concrete plan, a plan A, while also fully preparing for a good backup plan. Ultimately, no one can do this hard work for you, unfortunately, right? No one can choose the career path for you except you. It's not going to be easy. And if you don't know exactly what you want to do, you might just sort of be trying to push it out of your mind. You don't want to think about it too much, but you really need to do the hard work. You need to take the time to think about what it is you want to do at the end of all of this. What do you imagine your job being? Are you in an office? Are you interacting with people? Again, even if you're looking to go straight into the job market, it's going to take roughly 6 months, maybe a little longer right now, of active searching for and applying for jobs in the market to get one. So it's really good if you're thinking that you want to go straight to the job market out of school, use those 6 months while you're in school to start looking at different jobs that are available. Do a Google search, right? And think about those that you would be interested in applying for and start preparing for them while you're in school. What are the skills they're looking for? What are the prerequisites they want? Start preparing for that now. So when you graduate, you're that much more ahead of the game. If you're thinking you want to go straight to grad school, make sure you're looking at when those applications are due. Hopefully, most people recommend a year ahead of time so that you can use the summer months to put your applications together. Now, I am a great example of not doing that and still being successful. So it's not to say that if you don't give yourself a year or two advance that you can't be successful. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm just saying it will be easier and a little bit less stressful if you know further ahead of time. But, if you're going into your senior year next year and you've only just found what you really want to do, it's okay. Don't stress out too much about it. It can be done. It's just going to take a little bit more effort and a little bit more work on your part. And remember, you do not have to do everything in one day. Just try putting aside 10 minutes each day to do some Googling, some sort of knowledge looking and exploring to sort of see what it is you need to do to get ready. If 10 minutes a day doesn't work, find one day a week, or maybe you can dedicate about 30 minutes to search for jobs that you want and the skills that they're asking for to be a good applicant for that job. Right now, just finding what skills and prerequisites you need, either for the job market or for grad school, is a great way to start preparing. And remember, I've mentioned this before, but every job, even your dream job, is going to have parts of it that are fun and parts that are not so fun. No one likes 110% of everything they do every single minute of every single day, whether it's from burnout, mental or emotional exhaustion, or just tedious tasks that we don't like doing. I personally love research. I could live in a lab and be perfectly happy. I worked on several research projects while I was in school, both as an undergrad and graduate student. I'm still working on quite a few projects, even though I'm no longer a student, and I love it. But there are still some tasks that are so tedious and I just don't love doing them. I usually push them off as long as I can. So, yes, even your professors procrastinate on their own tasks. Don't let them fool you and tell you that they are always ahead. That's not true. We procrastinate too. But I still know that these tasks are part of a larger picture and are important, even if I don't always love it. And even though I don't love maybe those small tasks, the majority of my job as a researcher and the majority of my job as a lecturer or professor, I love, right? I love the job overall. So just remember, not every job is going to be perfect, but most of your jobs should be great. You should enjoy it most of the time. Okay, so I want to touch on this idea of having a plan A and a plan B. The reason that is so important, at least for me, I always thought I never want to be in a career because I was forced there. I had no other option. So that's what I had to do. And even now, as I've gone through my career, my plans have changed. I typically create a 5-year plan. So, as an undergrad, I was thinking about being either a clinical psychologist or a behavior analyst. But either way, I knew I was going to need to go to graduate school. And as I was checking the boxes to make sure I was a competitive applicant for either of those programs, I was also trying to figure out, where I wanted to go. Once I decided on behavior analysis and I got into that master's program, again, I didn't really have a plan for what comes after, right? So now I had to think about what did I want to do after I got my master's degree. I personally never thought I wanted to be a faculty member or a teacher of any kind. I thought I just wanted a research position. I really loved research. It spoke to me. I enjoyed it. I was good at it. So I sort of was like, that's all I want to do. I don't want to think about anything else. But thanks to my advisor, who was wonderful, he made me prepare for both just in case, right? He's like, okay, that's great. You'd be a great researcher. We can find you a research position at the end of all this. Well, you should have a backup plan just in case. Explore your options. That's what you should do while you're in school, right? So I had the opportunity to lecture in some of his classes, and I was his instructional assistant as well for many of his classes while I was in grad school. And I realized that, yes, while I still loved research and I wanted that to be part of my future career, I also loved teaching. So I started taking steps to make sure I would be ready and competitive to apply for lecture positions once I graduated. And even now, I still have a plan for after that. I plan on going back to school in the next year or so to get my PhD so I can apply for more permanent teaching positions at a university, hopefully with a behavior analysis program. So even after I had reached one of my major goals of getting into graduate school, I still needed to have a plan A and plan B for when that was over. And I'm so glad that I fully prepared for both of those. So, creating two plans is really important because it makes you competitive for two different options. And you may even find that plan A isn't the career you want. The other thing you can start doing as you're creating two options for your career path is thinking about what requirements you need for that career. Do you need a certificate? Do you need graduate school, a master's, or even a PhD for the career you want? Are there specific courses that would help you prepare for that career? And are you taking those? And maybe even would a minor be appropriate? Let's say, for example, you want a career in forensic psychology. Well, you're majoring in psychology, but most likely having a minor in criminal justice would also help you. It would give you a better background for a career in forensic psychology. So, as you're thinking about creating a plan, um, which again, we are really focusing on actually creating the plan in the next module. This is more thinking about creating your plan, right? We're thinking about choosing sort of the career path and options that you want to go on. But just make sure that you're thinking about all of these things that even before we even get into module 9, where you'll actually be creating a plan, start thinking about those things now. But in order to not really overwhelm you, right now we're just really focusing on identifying your career path and waiting to create the actual plan in a couple weeks. So as we go into this module, module 8, finishing it and then going into module 9, there are really 3 steps that we're going to be focusing on. The first, which is in this module, module 8, is identifying your career. And the materials for this week, both from the book and the videos that you'll watch, list a bunch of jobs that are applicable and open to you with having a degree in psychology. Also, for your assignment, you'll be using ONET, which is going to ask you a multitude of questions about what things you do and do not enjoy. And it's going to give you a profile to what sort of jobs may be most suitable for your interests. As we conclude Module 8 next week, what we will move to from identifying your career path is actually plotting a path for your career and success in that career path. And by doing that, we will create an action plan, a plan of how to get you to that job successfully. And lastly, once we create that plan, the third step is to go out and get some exposure and experience and start building skills in that path in order to verify that it is the career you want and make sure it is desirable to you. And desirable is not just whether it is interesting to you, but will it give you the salary for the lifestyle you expect to have? Will there be a market for it when you are actually on the job market for that career? Will the overall environment be one that fits for you? And lastly, is the level of flexibility appropriate for what you see in your lifestyle? Whether that includes having a family or time and money to travel, really knowing what other aspects of your lifestyle you expect to have will also help you find a job that fits that lifestyle. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and I can't wait to hear about your experiences as you start to prepare for your own career path.